All right, so in the Overman's Manifesto, the author lays out this. It's his theory of everything. He calls it his theory of everything, and he breaks everything down into three parts: the self, society, and the unknown. And he goes into each of these about what they are and how reality is made up of these three things: the self, society, and unknown. And that is the totality of society, that nothing else exists outside of these three. And that the problem with the world is that people think linearly, and they don't think about how as one of these changes, it changes the rest, right? The self, society, and the unknown. But what's really interesting is he goes into deeply about all these, right? He goes into deeply about what the self is, what society is, and what the unknown is. And I think even if I don't go into what society and the unknown is, I think in some ways they're kind of self-explanatory. Although I think it's his talking about the self that really helped you understand society and the unknown even better, right? Because obviously society is just all of us, right? But what is us? What is I? And that's what he starts with. He starts with this introduction to the self, and he talks about how selfhood is the awareness of knowing that you exist and deciding what that existence means. And one of the things that he gets to is that human beings are meaning makers, right? Okay, so before I get into that, got to backtrack a little bit. I'm getting ahead of myself. This stuff is, I get really excited when I read this and think about this stuff. He starts off and he says that, okay, like reality is a matrix comprised of the self, society, and the unknown, he also asserts that the self is a matrix, right? A dance between three things. And he says it's universal consciousness, the body, and the environment, right? And he makes it a point to distinguish the environment from society at large. And he talks about how society is a human invention of the self, but now society is at a point where it's baked into the environment, right? The environment used to just be like where you live, this and that, but he goes into deeper, and he talks about how the environment is also the time in which you live in. So if we took all of your DNA, if we took everything that you are about, and your entire family and everything, but you were born in the 1800s instead of the year 2000, you would be a totally different person. You would have a totally different experience, right? And he also talks about how now, even in the 21st century, space itself is a new shaper of self, because now you can be physically in one place, but your consciousness is on Twitter. Your consciousness is on Instagram or on YouTube. And so you're physically in one space, but mentally you're somewhere else, okay? And so he talks about how you also have the body, right? The body is a part of your identity, what makes you you. And he talks about how the body isn't everything that you are, but one of the things about the body is a couple things. One, society interprets your body for you before you get a chance to. So I'm black, not because I said I'm black. I'm a man, not because I decided that I'm a man. Or in some ways, I'm just, that's what society has taught me. That's just what society told me. That was the story. That was the narrative I was dropped into when I was born, right? And I think this is one of the reasons why some people, they don't like when people break out of norms, because it is an attack on their identity. I've shared this back when I don't know if I've ever been transphobic, but there was definitely a time where I didn't agree with it, and I didn't agree with like different pronouns. I guess I didn't like the idea of pronouns, because to me it wasn't about you identifying yourself, It was about, you are trying to change my definition of what a woman is. You are trying to change my definition of what it means to be a man. That used to be my fight. And in this, he explains how, you know, before you get to decide what your body is, society has already told you what your body is, right? And I think it kind of speaks to that, how the reason why you get pushed back on something like pronouns is because it is a disorienting of another human being. It's not just somebody going, hey, these are my pronouns. It's, you're changing the way that I should interpret my body. You know what I'm saying? But now we get to the juicy part. He talks about how the third part of self, so environment, the body, but then he talks about universal consciousness, right? And I know that seems like an esoteric and spiritual thing, and it is. This is why I love this manifesto. It's not just political, but it's spiritual, it's cultural. Like it really is a theory of everything. Like he talks about everything from every possible angle. Link in the description for it, of course, the Overman's Manifesto. But when he gets to the part about universal consciousness, and he actually opens up with it, I kind of went backwards, but he opens up with this, talking about universal consciousness, and he says, you know, some people call it the soul, some people call it the spirit. I'll call it universal consciousness because it feels bigger than any one mind. And this is where he proposes that human beings, get this, guys, human beings are nothing more than the universe getting to know itself. When he said like that just like blew my mind. Like he said that we are the only beings in the universe that ask why. We are the only universe, or only entities in the universe that wonders about the universe itself. But yet we are also part of the universe. And so when we as humans, we think about stars, or we think about planets, or we think about politics, we are the universe getting to know itself. And so we create meaning, not because meaning exists, but because that's what we do as humans. We're the only things that's, as far as our knowledge, right? As far as our knowledge, we are the only things in the entire universe that narrate the universe, that names the planets. We are what determined, that called life. We don't debate the term life with anybody. I think it's even why we like the idea of there being aliens out there, because in the vastness of this infinite universe, the idea that we are narrating is actually kind of scary. It's actually very scary, and it is very big, but in the same space. This is why he has a whole section on the unknown, because we don't fully understand consciousness. We don't fully understand universal consciousness, the soul, the spirit. But I love it because he even ties it back to like when we were infants, and like even that first cry out of your mother's womb was a search for meaning. Was you trying to figure out what are you doing? And when you look at babies, they're constantly trying to search for meaning, and meaning making is a big part of the human existence. And I think that's very freeing for a lot of us, because I think what happens so often is that we can get this sense of hopelessness. We can get this sense of, why am I here? Like, and a big part of it, he touches on this, about how society has stripped the meaning out of existence, and it tries to sell us pieces of meaning, you know, back at a price. And it's like, well, you can't do that, because as humans, from the second we're born, we are going from unknown to known. And if we get trapped in the known, it is existential. It suffocates us, right? Because if society tells me that, you know, I'm supposed to go to college, get a degree, and become a lawyer, and then I go to college, get a degree, and become a lawyer, and then I'm not fulfilled by it, well, now what? I've built my entire life on the known. I built my entire life on this is the path I need to take, and I know this is where I need to go. I know this is what I need to do. He talks about this later on in the unknown section with like God, and he talks about why God needs to stay in the unknown. When you take God out of the unknown, he doesn't make sense anymore. He develops these human characteristics like jealousy and devotion, and it's like, dude, we're humans. We see less than 1% of the electromagnetic spectrum. We hear less than 1% of all sound waves. It's like the idea that God would be jealous, but then simultaneously restrict us from most of what he created. It doesn't make sense. And this is why it says like God has to stay in the unknown. And because when things are in the unknown, that is our purpose. When everything is known, when the purpose of life is known and the existence of everything is known, what's the point of humans? Humans are the narrators of the universe. We are the directors, actors, like main actors, producers of the universe. Nobody else narrates the universe other than humans. Our purpose, our whole point of existence is to make meaning out of a meaningless universe. Meaninglessness is not a problem for humans. It's our purpose. The problem is that we live in a society that has conditioned us to be fearful, to fear the unknown, to fear what we can't predict, and to be afraid of what happens next. And so if you don't have the money, he talks about how wealth is one of the most idiotic things that we have used to like deal with that meaninglessness and deal with that like the unknown, is that we have taken like literally survival and putting it behind paywalls. We've taken food and healthcare and social interactions, and we've now put them behind paywalls. And it's like, for what? What's the point of that? Well, the point is because it's a way to get us locked into the known, and it gets us out of going into the unknown. Because if you already have food, if you already have healthcare, if you know you're going to be fine, if you know you got a support system, that frees you. That frees you to explore. That frees you to test. That frees you to fail. That frees you to try. That frees you to cry. That frees you to be mad. That frees you to not have all the answers, because you don't have to worry about it, right? But when you live in a society that is trying to sell existence back to you, the nature of existence itself back to you, with all the stuff that you know, it takes it out of it. And so a lot of us feel hollow. A lot of us feel like we're failing at life, and we're not failing at life. We're not failing. It's that we live in a society that has conditioned us to against what we are, which are meaning makers. You made meaning of the thumbnail. You made meaning of the title. You made meaning throughout this whole video. You've been making meaning. Right? We are meaning makers. There's nothing we can do to turn it off. And so, but when you are in a society that is trying to strip away your authenticity, right? He talks about this in Universal Consciousness, about how human rights, they don't come from this idea of, they don't come from government. Human rights is universal consciousness, dismantling the illusion of separation, morality, justice. This is universal consciousness going, wait, I'm a meaning maker, you're a meaning maker. We need to protect each other. That's what laws are, right? It's, yeah, you're different than me. Yeah, you come from a different place and whoop-de-whoop, whatever. But at your core, we're both trying to make sense of this. And he goes on deeper to talk about in the unknown about how oppression is anti-evolutionary. Because every time you oppress a meaning maker, you are losing that potential explanation of reality, right? Everybody's life is different. Some people's lives are bigger, some are smaller, but it doesn't matter because everybody's making meaning. Human beings are the universe trying to know itself. This is why every single life is important. Every single life needs to make meaning. And the reason why every single life needs to make meaning is because the universe is trying to know itself. And so it's just freeing. It means that you don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to, know what's next, right? Yes, it sucks that, and he talks about this. This is why he goes deeper into society. Because I think once you have that understanding of self, once you understand that, I love the way he puts it. He says, you don't know who you are until you know where you end and the world begins, right? And I think like understanding that, I'm here to make meaning. This has always been my purpose. Since I was 1 second years old, I was making meaning. And now I live in a society that restricts my ability to make meaning. Now it helps you to be able to articulate what you're actually seeing in society. Now it helps you to be able to narrate the void, to be able to go, okay, what is it? Now that I understand that, part of the hopelessness, part of the meaninglessness that I feel is coming from because in my core, I'm supposed to be making meaning right now, but I'm stuck going to a job that I hate, or I'm stuck dealing with this BS. This is why, like, at some point, like having the wrong people in power and having the wrong people in charge of certain sectors of society is self-defeating, because you need people who are going to allow the meaning makers to make meaning of society, right? And so, but it's been really helpful, and it's been really awesome to help me, because it helps me go like, I don't have to have it all figured out. Like I'm literally making meaning as I go, right? And so hopefully that helps you guys. Hopefully that helps you guys see that, like, you don't have to have all the answers, right? You are the universe getting to know itself. We are the universe getting to know itself. We are the people, we narrate the universe, not the stars, not the planets, not the black holes. Human beings are the only entities to our knowledge that narrate the universe. And so go out there and narrate, man. You're the director. And I know that can be daunting, because it's like, oh my gosh, there's so much out there. That's kind of the point. That this is what, okay, buddy. You just gonna sneak up on a brother. You really want to get to this red light, huh? That's why I hate people. But yeah, just go out today and like, don't feel so pressured to be something or be somebody or do that. Like, we're all trying to make it up. And he even goes into that and talks about how, like, listen, a lot of the rules that you go by, they're just rules made up by people who are more afraid than you. A lot of the things that we're dying by, we're living by, like, I fully believe, like, 200 years from now, they're gonna look at us and go, capitalism? Y'all thought capitalism was the best? Like, y'all thought, like, because that's just how it is. Don't we look back at the past at that? Why? They made meaning for their time period. But when we get locked into, when our society locks us into that period's meaning making, it becomes oppressive to the rest of us. We need to be freed up to be able to make meaning ourselves, right? And do so in ways that, because most people don't mess with people like that. Most people aren't trying to disrupt other people's process of meaning making. We just live in a society where he talks a lot about narcissists and narcissism, about how, like, the narcissists are just at the top of society. And what narcissists do is they get everybody else, they get other people's to bend their narratives into their own narrative. So they bend reality to itself instead of trying to bend itself to reality. And so they get one person steps up and get everybody else, like, caught up in their story, in their meaning making, and their meaning making becomes the meaning for everybody else. And so it gets deep. I'll leave a link for it in the description. You guys should go check it out. I really loved it. I think you guys will too. Author of it's pretty cool too. All right, love you guys. Bye.